4 years ago, I bought my first camera. Actually, it was my second camera, if I count the Canon 650D that I had something like 10 years ago. But I wasn't really in photography stuff at the time. After all my researches, I decided to go with the GX80 or the GX85, depending on the country where you are. And today I'm going to explain to you why I made this choice and also what would be my choice today. I decided to make this video in English in order to help the more people I can across the world. Let's get into it. I think my very first condition was to respect a low budget. Honestly, I don't even remember well what I had in mind during my research at the time. I know that I quickly turned into micro four third systems and Lumix cameras, and I spent most of the time comparing different models in this brand. I wanted a camera that could do both stills and video. I very quickly stopped considering Olympus cameras because of the menus that I didn't like. I appreciated the menus and the ergonomics of the Lumix cameras, and it's still the case now. I hesitated quite a bit between this model and the Lumix G7 at the time. For some reason that I could not give you now, I went for the GX80. Now let's see the characteristic that makes the GX80 or GX85, in my opinion, a serious beast. First, this camera has internal 5-axis stabilization. It's great for video because you can achieve very good results without necessarily having to invest in a gimbal. In photography, this can allow us to go down to fairly low values before having camera shake when you photo. Coupled with the stabilization of certain Panasonic lenses, we obtain even better results. Then I love it for its size. And that's a real selling point for most users of the micro four thirds system. You can really take it anywhere you want, especially with its pancake kit lens, which is amazing. It fits in a jacket pockets really easily. Then I went for the Lumix G9 that I'm using for recording this video right now, but I keep using my GX80 very often for my photo shoots, especially in street photography, because it is discreet and really practical to use. Damn! I also like the retro look it has. I had a little trouble with the grip at first, but soon it was no longer a problem. I really get used to it, and now this camera and I just making one. Small size doesn't prevent great performances. It is not necessarily the most important thing for me, but this camera can shoot 4K. In order to use 50 frames per second or 60 frames per second, depending on the region where you are, you will have to go with 1080p, which is absolutely not a problem with me. Image quality is great in both. Then I like all the functions that you can usually find in Lumix cameras, such as the histogram, the horizon indicator and the focus picking. There are plenty of other functions like 4K burst, post-focus mode and so on. These are not functions that I use, but I advise you to find more information about all the functions this camera can offer to you. It is possible to customize many things to make the camera really the way you want it. By the way, the GX80 has a touchscreen. It is not fully articulate. This might be a little tricky to use, but once again I get used to it and I never had any problem using it. But this is something to really consider if you plan to buy this camera for travel vlogging, for example. Also, it is impossible to plug an external microphone into the camera. You will need an external recorder. In my opinion, the GX80 is not initially intended for travel vlogging, and that is only weakness for me. Obviously you can find better cameras, but not if you compare what you can compare. 4 years later, I can say that I still use this camera with great pleasure, and I highly recommend it to anyone who is looking for a first camera to discover photography, or for anyone who is looking for a light travel camera or for street photography, for example. It is a very balanced camera at a very attractive price. It was released in 2016, but it is far from being exceeded in its category. To be honest, I think it still beats some models that appeared after and were more or less intended to replace it. I advise you to consider the GX9, which is very similar to the GX80, but with some improvements. I let you compare and make your own opinion. I hope this video helped you. Do not hesitate to ask me your question in comments and I will answer to it, of course. I leave you here with some photos I made with the GX80 and 12 to 30 mm. See you soon for a new video. Goodbye.